Now, I'm no psychologist, but even I know that the phallic imagery of the Hat of Discipline says a lot about Rolf's unique childhood.
What is that, Rolf? The Hat of Discipline. Do you live in a cave? All is forgiven.
Hey there, party people. Welcome to Kramer Cafe. I'm Kramer. Let's get started. So, I'm sure you all know that one of the most important things to consider when making any story is the cast of characters. The cast of a story needs to have chemistry with one another in terms of the roles they play, what their different personalities are like, and so on. Some stories have good casts, some have great casts, some have downright terrible casts, but then you'll on occasion get stories whose casts are chef's kiss perfection. This series of videos is all about studying those perfect cast formulas and teaching you how to best include them in your own story ideas. I figured I'd need to start strong with this series of videos, so today we're going to talk about one of my favorite perfect cast formulas, a thing that I like to call the Freud formula. Sigmund Freud was one of the most successful idiots of all time. His theories on psychology were completely backcrap crazy, and clearly this man had some issues, but one of his psychological concepts actually can lend itself to creating some amazing characters for TV shows and other stories. The thing I'm referring to is the concept of the id, ego, and superego. For those of you who don't study psychology or just haven't watched Venture Bros or Phineas and Ferb, I'll explain what this means. Basically, the id, ego, and superego are supposed to be the three major components of the human psyche. The id represents one's base desires and the need for pleasure and instant gratification. Then you have the superego, which represents the more moral side of a person's personality, their sense of justice and right and wrong, essentially. And finally, the ego is the glue that binds it all together. It's our sense of self and the thing that connects the id and superego together to form a full personality. There are plenty of shows that utilize this perfect cast formula that I can think of off the top of my head. Typically, it'll be a show with three main characters. They're all sort of screw ups who don't work great alone, but together can accomplish anything. Some examples of shows like these include Eddy and Eddy, Totally Spies, My Adventures with Superman, and several others. Even shows with more than three main cast members utilize this formula well, like the main three Crystal Gems in Steven Universe or Team Monarch in the Venture Bros. The reason why the Freud formula works so well is because it creates a cast with perfect balance between one another. The id and the superego's goals and ideals will frequently clash with one another, but the ego somehow manages to bridge the gap and keep them all working together. But when the id and superego team up, they actually work very well with one another because of the completely different perspectives they both bring to the table. Though this can occasionally leave the ego feeling left out, which can sometimes lead to comedy and other times lead to emotional moments. Now that you have some idea of how the Freud formula works, we're going to do something fun and come up with a brand spanking new story idea that utilizes this perfect cast formula. To do that, we're going to need a little help from the Wheel of Concepts. I went ahead and chose 10 random concepts that are common across all forms of media to put on this wheel. Our options for today are aliens, vampires, office, criminals, ancient history, detectives, Riverdale, ghosts, rom-com, and apocalypse. We're going to do a quick speed run through creating a new story idea just to prove how freaking easy it is to use this cast formula to make quality stories. Also, just so you all know, this idea we're about to come up with is 100% free for you to use yourselves in any way you want. Now let's get going and spin that wheel! Well, it looks like the lucky concept is going to be the apocalypse. Let's get going. So, first off, we're going to just keep it simple and say that this series takes place in a world in the middle of the zombie apocalypse. Think Walking Dead, but with more comedy and stupid people. The title is going to be something simple. Let's say Survivors, because this trio of main characters is literally just trying to survive. They aren't looking to save the world or find a cure, they're just trying to get through this shit alive and well while still having as much fun as humanly possible. To that end, we're going to say the main setting is a bargain mart type of place like Costco or Walmart, where there's plenty of food and miscellaneous supplies to help our three main characters survive properly. They'll still venture out into the world frequently to have little adventures and whatnot, but it's still a good idea to have a home to defend from zombies and other villainous characters living in their town. The main characters are pretty easy to figure out. The leader of the group will be the id character. We'll call him Ivan Dragomir because ID for id, and also I just like the name, Dragomir. Noble, expensive, more than likely communist, it's perfect. Ivan is a guy who wants to take advantage of the zombie apocalypse to live life with zero responsibilities, all while having a crazy amount of fun living out his greatest action movie fantasies ever, even if he doesn't have the skills to match it. Next, the Superego. We'll make this character Ivan's brother to add another layer to the clashes between the id and Superego. Let's say his name is Sam, like S for Superego. Sam Dragomir. Dragomir. I still love it. Sam is the brains of the group, like the double D to his brother's clear Eddy. Sam is really the only one of these three idiots who isn't actually enjoying himself in the zombie apocalypse. He's the one who's mainly responsible for building up their defenses and is the only one working on a cure, even though he's mostly limited to using supplies in the supermarket they all live in. I think it would be funny if one such cure was actually crystal meth, simply because a place like that should have a healthy supply of cough medicine, and you gotta figure this guy would be dumb enough to make that stuff completely by accident at some point. And now for the final touch, the ego. This character will be a woman just to add some diversity to the cast, and let's name her Evelyn. Evelyn Go, though she goes by Lin for short. She's Chinese, and also just for shits and giggles, her name is literally Ego. I know, I'm terrible, but remember, this is all just for fun. Lin is the badass of the group. She's killer with a sword and is also a great sharpshooter with a sniper rifle. She takes her job as the group's resident zombie slayer pretty seriously, and she's also the one who holds the singular brain cell of the group most often. She's blunt and is the only one with any semblance of common sense, but that's not to say she's the dumbass in her own right. She'll frequently get obsessive and overly competitive when it comes to certain things, and we're also going to give her and Ivan the id a subplot where they start hooking up after Lynn starts training him to fight zombies. Eventually they'll become a legit couple, and they'll serve as our primary endgame love story for the series. This cast's antics can lead to any number of fun episode plots. Some ideas off the top of my head include a gang of biker rude dudes, which are common enough in any apocalypse story. They start encroaching on the main character's turf. Sam the superego wants to handle this issue diplomatically to try and get the bikers off their back. But Ivan and Lynn decide to take the path of incredible violence rather than the path of friendship, and nearly cause an all-out war between the two groups. Fortunately, Sam saves the day by using some knowledge he showcased earlier in the episode to lead a group of zombies to where they're all fighting to scare the bikers off. Another episode idea could be Lynn trying to train pacifist Sam to battle zombies more effectively. Meanwhile, Ivan goes on a quest to acquire a tasty sort of snack food he heard is hidden somewhere in the city. However, due to the general dumbassery of the id character, Ivan only winds up getting himself trapped in a nest of zombies. Sam then has to use his training to save his brother from the zombies, while Lynn stands by to save his ass when he inevitably almost gets himself killed. Those are just a few examples of what you can do with a cast like this. As you can see, the Freud formula definitely works well for TV shows as well as other forms of storytelling. I can absolutely see Survivors also being turned into a novel akin to The Martian, something full of humor with several mini-stories all within one big overarching plot. I hope you all enjoyed learning about the Freud formula, and I'm sure you can all tell what I mean when I say this cast formula is chef's kiss perfection. That's all for now. Let me know your thoughts on this video and the idea we came up with today in the comments section below. And if you have your own ideas for how to use the Freud formula in a story idea yourself, feel free to tell us about it in the comments, and it might just get featured in a future video of mine. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Until next time, this is Kramer Cafe. I'm Kramer. See you soon.